everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at kicking tees and what you need to consider to get the perfect tee for you. A kicking tee is used to give a rugby ball some clearance from the ground and allows a secure holding of it for a player to kick conversions. Given a tee is only used for extra points, there are no World Rugby regulations presently as to what constitutes a tee, as there's no safety risk to other players. Historically, everything from turf to sand was used, so you have a lot of leeway to figure out what works best for you. Let's talk about the basic construction of a tee. While there are meaningful differences between different heights and style of kicking tees, it's ultimately a simple item. It's going to have some sort of cradle to set the ball in, a base, and potentially an adjustable middle portion as on a telescopic tee, although this isn't universal. They're usually constructed of rubber and will have a low, medium, or high profile depending on how much clearance you want from the ground. Most kicking tees are single-piece construction, but telescopic tees are typically at least two pieces. When you're picking out a kicking tee, there are four primary things to look at: stability, the cradle, height, and material. If any of these things is lacking for your needs, a tee will be hurting your performance. First up is stability. Having a kicking tee that is stable enough to not fall over in the weather or on an uneven field is essential. Clearly, if a tee falls over mid-kick, this ruins everything. A tee should have a base that is sturdy enough to hold the ball steady in various weather and field types. Next up is the cradle and ball placement. Having a cradle that allows you to hold the ball steady and in the angle most appropriate for your kicking style is a must. If the cradle can't keep the ball from slipping or hold at the appropriate angle, you won't be able to control the variables necessary for consistently good goal kicking. Tees with multiple cradle points that are higher in the front and lower in the back can allow for a more vertical kicking style. If you prefer to kick the ball on the end, picking a tee with a cradle that's a bit flatter can help. The height of the tee is also critical, but is largely down to personal preference and kicking mechanics. There are four major types of tee: low, medium, high, and telescopic. Low-style kicking tees offer around 6 centimeters of ground clearance. This is the most commonly seen tee in rugby union. It's arguably the most stable kicking tee height as it has the lowest center of gravity and doesn't sit as high up into the wind. Many feel it puts the ball in a more ideal spot for power kicking as well. The downside to a low tee is it has less margin for error in foot placement. Swing too low and you'll strike the ground and interfere with the follow-through and won't have a clean strike on the ball. As well, you usually have to strike the ball slightly higher up to avoid hitting the ground. This is probably the most difficult for beginners to learn off of. Medium tees are usually around 8 centimeters tall. The extra height allows for different ball placements like kicking on the tip of the ball, which can help with accuracy but limit distance. Given it's only a couple of centimeters taller than a low-profile tee, these should have a very similar design to low profiles. High tees are usually between 10 and 11 centimeters tall. This offers the most ground clearance and are more forgiving for when you're swinging too low. This is perhaps the easiest for players to begin to learn off of as they get comfortable with the basic mechanics of kicking. However, many top professionals kick off this height, so it's not just for beginners. The telescopic tee offers a range of heights, usually from 9 to 14 centimeters tall. These tend to have a different cradle type altogether, as you can see, but their main function is allowing for a variety of kicking heights. This lets a player fine-tune their mechanics by either slowly adjusting to a particular height they want to kick from, or simply positioning the tee to meet their natural swing. This can be a great option for new kickers who need a higher ground clearance initially to develop their technique and confidence, but can gradually lower it over time if desired. There are world-class goal kickers that use each type to great effect, so experiment to see what works best for you and your kicking style. The material of the tee is probably not as important as getting the height and cradle right, but kicking is about fine margins, so it pays to think about it. Traditionally, kicking tees have been made of hard rubber all through, but newer tees are beginning to incorporate or be entirely constructed of softer rubbers. The rationale is that hard materials can potentially alter the flight path of the ball if the foot strike causes the tee to interfere with it as it leaves the cradle. Softer tees in theory provide more flush contact with the ball and can absorb more force from the strike, which keeps the tee from ricocheting into the ball as hard, which can alter flight path. Some players also feel they can follow through the kick better when the tee is softer, which is critical to accurate and consistent kicking. With all of that said, kicking is a highly individualized endeavor. It requires controlling many variables through repetition and predictable movements. It's important that kickers find a routine and technique that works for them both physically and psychologically. As such, there's no best type of kicking tee for everyone. Experiment with different types to find the one that works best for you and your kicking style.